Imagine giving birth in a cave, no doctor, no hospital, no antibiotics, and a 50% chance your child wouldn't live to see their 5th birthday. And yet somehow, against those brutal odds, humanity didn't just survive, it thrived, spreading across every continent on Earth. Today we're going to uncover the astonishing, resourceful, and sometimes heartbreaking ways ancient humans kept their kids alive when the entire world was trying to kill them. For most of human history, infant and child mortality rates were staggering. Anthropologists estimate that in prehistoric and early agricultural societies, anywhere from 40 to 50% of children died before reaching adulthood, a number so high it's almost impossible for modern parents to comprehend. Yet, our ancestors developed an entire toolkit of survival strategies, some rooted in hard-won practical knowledge, others in superstition. Together, they gave children just enough of an edge to make it through infancy and childhood. The first and arguably most important strategy wasn't a tool or a medicine at all. It was people. Early human societies practiced what anthropologists call cooperative breeding, or alloparenting, meaning raising a child was never the job of just one mother. It was the job of an entire band, or tribe. Grandmothers, aunts, older siblings, and unrelated adults all pitched in to feed, watch, and protect infants. This is actually the foundation of what's known as the grandmother hypothesis, which suggests human females evolved to live decades past menopause specifically because postmenopausal grandmothers dramatically increased the survival odds of their grandchildren, helping gather food, provide childcare, and pass down critical survival knowledge. Studies of hunter-gatherer societies, like the Hadza in Tanzania, show that children with actively involved grandmothers had significantly better nutrition and survival rates than those without, which tells us community, not isolation, was the ancient world's #1 parenting hack. Breastfeeding was another absolutely critical piece of the puzzle, and ancient mothers didn't just breastfeed for a few months. Like modern guidelines often suggest, they nursed their children for 2 to 4 years in many hunter-gatherer societies. Because breast milk wasn't just nutrition, it was medicine, delivering antibodies that helped protect infants from the deadly waterborne and foodborne illnesses that plagued pre-modern life. In societies where mothers couldn't nurse due to death, illness, or insufficient milk supply, wet nursing became an essential backup system. Other lactating women in the community would step in to feed a child that wasn't biologically theirs. A practice documented across ancient Egypt, Greece, Rome, and countless indigenous cultures worldwide. Because in the ancient world, a baby who couldn't be breastfed by someone was often a baby who didn't survive at all. Beyond feeding, ancient parents developed ingenious physical solutions to keep babies safe. One of the most widespread was swaddling, tightly wrapping infants in cloth or animal hides. This wasn't just about comfort. It served real protective functions, keeping babies warm in an era without central heating, restricting dangerous movement that could lead to falls or injuries. In some cultures, swaddled babies were placed on cradle boards that could be carried, hung from trees away from predators and insects, or propped upright so mothers could keep working while keeping their child safe and visible. Archaeological evidence of cradle boards has been found across Native American cultures, ancient Peru, and parts of Asia, showing just how universally humans converged on similar solutions to the same terrifying problem, keeping a helpless infant alive while still needing to hunt, gather, farm, and survive. Co-sleeping was another nearly universal practice. Infants slept directly against their mother's or another caregiver's body throughout the night. This served multiple survival purposes at once, regulating the baby's body temperature, making nighttime breastfeeding easier and more frequent, and, most importantly, keeping the child close enough that any sign of distress, illness, or danger would be immediately noticed. Because in a world without baby monitors, proximity was the monitor. The physical closeness between parent and child wasn't a parenting philosophy, it was a survival necessity, born of a world with no safety net. Ancient humans also developed a surprisingly sophisticated, if imperfect, understanding of medicine and hygiene. Long before germ theory existed, they used medicinal plants and herbs, passed down through generations, to treat fevers, infections, and digestive issues. Archaeological and ethnobotanical research shows that indigenous cultures across the Americas, Africa, and Asia had extensive pharmacological knowledge of local plants specifically for treating childhood illnesses. While many of these remedies were based on trial and error rather than scientific understanding, some proved remarkably effective. This knowledge was considered so valuable, it was often guarded and passed down specifically through maternal lines, from grandmother to to daughter, creating an unbroken chain of practical medical wisdom that predated written history by thousands of years. Nutrition beyond breastfeeding was another area where ancient parents had to get creative. The transition from breast milk to solid food, known as weaning, was one of the most dangerous periods in a child's life. Early agricultural societies often relied on gruels made from grains, which provided calories but lacked the complete nutrition of breast milk, leading to malnutrition and weakened immune systems. This is actually one reason why the shift from hunting and gathering to agriculture initially caused child mortality rates to spike rather than drop. Grain-based diets, while allowing for larger populations, were nutritionally inferior to the very diet of wild plants, fish, and meat that hunter-gatherer children typically received, showing us technological progress didn't always mean immediate improvement in child survival. Ancient societies also relied heavily on what we might now call early childhood education for survival. They taught children essential skills: identifying poisonous plants, recognizing predator tracks, understanding water safety, from an incredibly young age. Not as academic lessons, but as literal life-or-death training, woven into daily play and observation. Because a 5-year-old who knew which berries were safe to eat had a real survival advantage over one who didn't. This constant, hands-on education meant children in hunter-gatherer societies were often remarkably self-sufficient and knowledgeable about their environment by age 7 or 8, far more so than many modern children at the same age. Then there's the more unsettling side of ancient child-rearing. With mortality rates so devastatingly high, many cultures developed rituals, taboos, and belief systems specifically designed to protect children from what they understood as spiritual or supernatural dangers. Practices like delayed naming, where infants weren't given a permanent name until they survived a certain number of days, weeks, or even months, a practice found in cultures ranging from parts of West Africa to Scandinavia. And this wasn't cold or unloving, it was actually a protective psychological mechanism, an unconscious way of guarding parental attachment against the devastating and all too common possibility of infant death. Because in a world where you might bury half your children, cultures developed customs that helped communities and parents cope with grief that was almost a statistical certainty rather than a rare tragedy. Protective amulets, charms, and rituals were also incredibly common across nearly every ancient culture. From ancient Egyptian Eye of Horus amulets, meant to ward off evil and disease, to red string bracelets in various Asian traditions, to iron objects placed near cradles in European folklore, believed to repel malevolent spirits. And while we now understand these had no actual biological protective effect, they served a crucial psychological function, giving parents a sense of agency and control in a world where so much of a child's survival was genuinely, terrifyingly out of their hands. Shelter and environmental protection were equally critical. Ancient dwellings were specifically designed with child safety in mind, keeping fires contained but accessible for warmth, elevating sleeping areas away from ground-dwelling pests and cold drafts, and positioning settlements near reliable, clean water sources. Because waterborne illness was one of the single biggest killers of ancient children, and access to relatively cleaner water sources, even without any understanding of germ theory, measurably improved survival rates. What's truly remarkable, when you step back and look at the full picture, is that ancient humans, without modern medicine, without antibiotics, without understanding of viruses or bacteria, managed to develop an entire interconnected system. Community support, nutritional knowledge, physical protection, medicinal wisdom, and psychological coping mechanisms. A system that, while it couldn't save every child, was sophisticated enough to allow the human species to survive, multiply, and eventually spread to every corner of the planet. And honestly, when you think about it, modern parenting advice, breastfeeding on demand, co-sleeping safely, relying on a village of family and friends, trusting hands-on learning over screens, isn't actually new at all. It's ancient wisdom that our ancestors discovered through millennia of unimaginable trial and error, often paid for in the currency of their own children's lives. So the next time you see a new parent leaning on grandparents for help, or nursing a baby to sleep, or letting a toddler explore the backyard instead of a tablet, remember, they're not doing anything revolutionary. They're doing exactly what humans have always done, drawing on a survival playbook written in blood, love, and desperation over hundreds of thousands of years. And if this deep dive into our ancestors' fight to keep the next generation alive gave you a new appreciation for just how far we've come, make sure you hit subscribe. Because history isn't just about the past, it's about understanding exactly how fragile and how resilient human life has always been.